Let's get right into it. Number 8. Emotional blackmail. The classic guilt trip. Imagine this. Your mate texts, "It's fine. I guess I'll just do it alone, like always." Cue your inner guilt gremlin sprinting onto the stage, waving red flags and shouting, "Abandonment issues, activate." That, right there, is emotional blackmail. It's a manipulation classic, and if it were a song, it'd be on repeat in every toxic playlist. The technique is simple. They imply that unless you do what they want, you're heartless, selfish, or worse, just like their ex. Your empathy radar picks it up as distress. Your brain goes, "Oh no, someone's suffering. I must help." But spoiler alert, they're not suffering. They're performing. It's emotional theater, and you just bought front row seats and agreed to clean up after. Psychologically, this taps into your limbic system, the part of your brain that screams when someone you care about is upset. Manipulators know how to hit those emotional keys like they've got a PhD in piano manipulation. Before you know it, you're rearranging your life for someone who uses guilt like it's currency. And the worst part, they don't thank you. They just reload the guilt cannon for next time. Number 7. Faux fragility, the weaponized breakdown. Let's say you give someone constructive feedback. Nothing brutal, just a gentle, "Hey, maybe don't set fire to the group chat at 2 a.m. Suddenly, they're in tears, hyperventilating, talking about how they're just a terrible person and how everyone always hates them. You didn't criticize them. You triggered an Oscar-worthy meltdown. This is faux fragility, acting ultra fragile to make you feel like a monster. And guess what? It works. You instantly pivot from reasonable human to emotional support dog with a guilt complex. It's not the same as genuine distress. People who do this on cue are redirecting the conversation away from accountability and back to their comfort zone, where they're the victim and you're the bad guy for noticing something wrong. In psychology, this links to covert narcissism, where people manipulate by playing the helpless card, because if they look small and broken, you won't dare challenge them again. Congratulations. You've been emotionally mugged by a sad face emoji. Number 6. The Favour funnel. Just this once turns into always. You ever help someone out once? And suddenly you're their unpaid intern, life coach, and emotional support wombat? This one starts harmless. They ask for a quick lift, then a quick chat, then a quick 5 hours, helping them rebrand their failed candle business. You tell yourself, it's just this once, but somehow it's never just this once. Welcome to the Favour funnel, where one tiny act of kindness quietly snowballs into a full-time commitment you never signed up for. And the trick is, it's always framed as casual. "Hey, you're good at this stuff, right?" Or, "Mate, you're a legend. Couldn't do it without you." Translation, they could do it without you. They just really don't want to. Your brain, meanwhile, runs the "don't be rude" algorithm. You don't want to seem selfish. You like being helpful. You've got that Aussie decency baked in. Lend a hand. Don't be a tosser. But here's the psychological sting. This plays on reciprocity bias, the hardwired need to return kindness. The manipulator skips doing you favors altogether. They just exploit the loop and cash in over and over again. And before you know it, you're knee-deep in someone else's chaos, wondering how you got conned into writing their resume at 2 a.m. while they nap. Moral of the story? Helping is great, but being milked like an emotional dairy cow? Maybe not. Number 5. The victim vortex, drama as a full-time job. You know the type. There's always something going wrong. Always a crisis. Always a fresh disaster that somehow requires your emotional support, time, energy, and, bonus round, probably your money. They're not just having a bad day. They're living in a never-ending soap opera. And you've been unwillingly cast as the supportive best mate who never sleeps. Welcome to the victim vortex, a psychological sinkhole of endless drama where every problem is someone else's fault, and every solution magically involves you doing more. This isn't the same as real, raw hardship. This is chronic catastrophizing. It's using suffering as social currency. The more tragic their tale, the more guilt you feel if you don't help. And the moment you try to draw a line, say, "Hey, maybe I can't be your emotional dumping ground at 1 a.m. while you rant about your ex's cousin's dog's vet bill," you're the bad guy. This tactic latches onto your empathy and spins it like a washing machine on turbo. You want to help. You feel for them, but helping never helps. It just keeps the cycle going and keeps you trapped in the narrative. Quick test: if you feel exhausted after talking to them, and somehow like a worse person for setting basic limits, yep, you're in the vortex. Time to paddle out, mate. You can care without getting emotionally shipwrecked. Number 4, the good person trap. When niceness becomes a prison. Here's the real kicker. The more you try to be a good person, the easier it is for manipulators to twist that into a leash. You're raised to be helpful, generous, forgiving, and those are brilliant qualities. But they can be turned against you faster than a seagull nicking hot chips. Manipulators know that once you've labeled yourself a good person, they don't need to convince you. You'll convince yourself. They don't have to say, you're being selfish. Your brain does it for them. Every time you set a boundary, you second guess it. Every time you stand up for yourself, you feel guilty. Because you're supposed to be kind, right? But real kindness isn't endless self-sacrifice. It's not staying quiet to keep the peace. It's not tolerating nonsense just because you've got empathy. There's a word for weaponizing your self-image to keep you compliant. It's called moral manipulation. And it's sneaky because it makes you feel like the bad guy for doing the right thing for yourself. So if you're always doing the emotional heavy lifting, always being the understanding one, always the first to forgive, pause and ask, is this kindness or conditioning? Because being a good person doesn't mean being a doormat with a smiley face drawn on it. Number 3, the guilt swap, when you're the villain for having boundaries. All right, picture this. You finally say no to something unreasonable. Maybe you don't want to lend your car, babysit their unhinged Pomeranian, or redo their tax return on a Sunday arvo. Totally fair, right? But suddenly, they flip it, now you're the selfish one. Wow, I'd do it for you, they murmur, eyes wide like a kicked puppy. And just like that, the whole situation's reversed. You're not setting a boundary, you're betraying their trust. This is the classic guilt swap. Manipulators are masters at reframing your perfectly reasonable no as an act of moral treason. It's Jedi-level gaslighting, and your brain doesn't love it. Why? Because you've likely been raised on a steady diet of be helpful, be nice, don't cause trouble. So when someone reacts to your boundary like you've just burnt down their nana's garden, your brain short circuits, you feel bad, you cave. This taps into social conditioning, especially strong in cultures like ours, where being laid back and helpful is part of the national identity. You don't want to be the difficult one. So you swallow your boundary, slap on a smile, and agree to the thing you absolutely didn't want to do. And just like that, the guilt swap scores another win. Pro tip? If saying no makes them act like you've kicked their emotional shins, that's not friendship. It's manipulation in a sundress. Number 2, the silent punishment, when kindness gets the cold shoulder. Ever told someone no, nicely, only to be met with radio silence so loud you could hear your own heartbeat? No angry texts, no full-blown tantrum, just frosty silence, lingering awkwardness, and maybe a dramatic untagging on Instagram. You've just experienced silent punishment, a passive-aggressive favorite of the emotionally savvy manipulator. They don't argue, they don't explain, they just vanish, hoping you'll freak out enough to come crawling back, full of apologies and compromise. It's not always obvious at first. It might start with shorter replies, forgotten invites, or that weird feeling like you've done something wrong, but no one's telling you what. And the twisted bit, this works because you're kind, you care about harmony. Your brain wants to fix the vibe, so you end up overcompensating, offering favors, making peace offerings, bending over backwards, just to make things feel normal again. In psychology, this is tied to intermittent reinforcement, like a dodgy slot machine. The manipulator trains you to chase their approval because when it does come back, it feels like relief. But here's the deal. If someone needs to freeze you out to feel powerful, they're not upset. They're strategic. They're using your anxiety like a remote control. And honestly, that kind of mind game belongs in a low-budget reality show, not your friendships. Number 1, love bombing, kindness with strings attached. Let's talk about the emotional equivalent of a dodgy free trial. Love bombing. You know the drill. Someone showers you with attention, compliments, favors, maybe even baked goods. You're thinking, crikey, this person's unreal. And then suddenly, you owe them. Love bombing's sneaky. It looks like genuine kindness, but it's got expiry dates and silent contracts. You didn't ask for the lift, the coffee, or the surprise playlist titled Songs That Remind Me of You. But now, saying no to anything feels like you're breaking some unspoken deal. This works because of the reciprocity principle again. Your brain's been evolutionarily guilt-tripped into thinking favors need to be returned, even if you never agreed to the terms. Love bombers know this. They front-load all the niceness so they can cash it in later. And when you don't play along, suddenly, the kindness stops. Or worse, turns into resentment. You're now ungrateful, cold, or taking them for granted. Mate, they weren't being nice. They were investing, expecting high emotional returns. And that playlist? Yeah, it's probably in a shared folder called Manipulative Bangers Vol. 1. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.